Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, we've reached the end of our books. Of course, ours is our Mind's Eye Robot. Since we're talking about the end, I'm going to limit my comments regarding the book to the last two chapters, which are Evidence and Inevitable Conflict. Asimov's novel really fits its genre since it's basically a description, or it's been described as a penultimate novel regarding robots and humans. Asimov was referred to as one of the most important writers in science fiction, and that would seem to be true because of the impact this book had on the genre. The prequels to iRobot were the Foundation trilogy. That won the Hugo Award for Best All-Time Series in '66. Asimov began adding to the series in '81 with some sequels and then prequels, and those additions also made reference to his Robot Empire series and Empire series, which indicated they were also, and sorry, that those were also set in the same fictional universe, and all of them were written between 51 and 93. I know that's kind of confusing, but if we can forgive George Lucas for starting at the end of Star Wars and moving backwards, then we can forgive Asimov for the same thing, I guess. The book follows expected tropes and conventions related to speculative fiction. There were several tropes like spacecraft and space travel, robotic tropes, artificial intelligence, artificial humans. I think Asimov also blended some of the contemporary tropes when dealing with describing the future by making some of his robots political leaders and using that to explain how they could break the laws of robotics. I think the interview excerpts with Dr. Calvin helped to humanize the story and give the reader a respected character to latch on to, since he seemed to make her appealing and almost like an innocent bystander, even though she was directly responsible for the advancements made in robotics. Almost like a unwilling pawn in the game of corporate and political espionage going on around her. The character Stephen Byerly actually being a robot and arranging his own death and destruction to keep people from realizing that a robot was leading them gives us just enough as readers to build upon with our normal distrust of politicians and government. And that blends into the current world ideas that we all have. It blends Asimov's fictional society just enough to make it seem feasible. He also uses proper titles of people in charge, like coordinator, in place of names, to make the characters seem more untouchable and almost evil in their agendas. As far as the ending of the book, I think Asimov stayed true to the tropes by bringing back into play the laws of robotics. He makes warnings about becoming too dependent on artificial intelligence, while continuing to use the world-building tropes to show what's happening to society that's become dependent on robotic calculations to make decisions for them. I think the novel ends up being sort of a warning to humanity to not depend too much on technology and to use the one thing that machines can't use in their calculations of what to do, which is apply emotion over logic. In the end, I think the robots have the answer about the fate of humanity, but as it says, they will not admit any explanation because it would be harmful to humanity, and that, of course, would violate one of the laws of robotics. Mankind ultimately loses its own say in its future in the book, and even though it's being determined by logical decisions of robots, it's still at the mercy of economic and sociological forces that the robots can't understand. This shows the robots' growth from simple machines in the beginning that only calculate problems to advanced machines that stand between mankind and the destruction of mankind. I think the ending where Calvin dies is appropriate because the robots have kind of taken over. And even though she knew the dangers of what would happen or what could happen, she helped facilitate it, and the world's being left to the fate which has been created by allowing the robots to take over. So looking forward to seeing what you guys had to say.